How are you, sir?
Good morning, Rowan. How are you?
Well, I'm very well. I'm sad to say the figures just out reveal that Northern Ireland, during the recent time of the economy recession, the economic recession, fared worse than any other part of the United Kingdom. What's all that about? I thought we were improving.
Yeah, well, I think we have to put it in context. I think the issue basically was, I suspect, the reason why we fared, it's a calculation known as the GVA they've done, which is unusual enough, which is gross value added per person. And I think the reason why it happened was twofold. Number one, our property prices rose quicker than anywhere else in the UK prior to it because of, thankfully, the Good Friday Agreement and the improved economic performance on the island, north and south. But when the recession came in, our property prices fell more. So property prices are a major part of that particular indice because it's a cost of living indice as opposed to a salary indice. And secondly, because we share the land border with the south, which in turn was a tremendous economic generator for us in the previous 10 years, you get me?
Yep.
The Celtic economy. Equally, when it collapsed, we had a far bigger impact than, say, the people in Manchester or Scotland would have had. But I think the good news is, because we always say you learn from the past, but you look out the windscreen, not out through your rear window of the car. Basically, the good news is there are positive signs, and I think there's no doubt about it that the economy is on the up at present.
Yeah.
However, I think the warning signs are even there if you read the press, and that we have some people immediately shouting for wage increases. I think you know, we do this at our peril. If we lose our competitiveness again, you know, this is disaster.
You see, we built the new city of Newry 10, 12 years ago now, we're getting on. And we built it on the basis of reaching out on the north-south economic corridor. Suddenly we're no longer a city a few years in, and we find there's no economy in the south to reach out to. So therein lies what you're talking about.
Well, I'd be careful there, because I think, to be fair, the underlying economy in the south is quite strong. I think their trade exports have grown by 3 to 4% each of the last 3 years. I think what you're seeing is an economy which collapsed on the back of banking and property. But I think, to be fair to the south, and there's many issues, but if you stand back and take a few steps back, it invested very astutely in infrastructure, which it will benefit in going forward. It did not cut back on its major investment in R&D and biotechnology and new technologies. And I think you will see a very educated workforce drive that forward into a world economy. And, you know, I think if you look at the fact is that Ireland is now considered the second most important hub for IT in the world. Think that over a wee economy of 5 million people. So don't get me wrong, there are underlying structural issues which are caused, let's be fair, by the collapse of banks, which was mainly on the back of property, and we all have to pay for that. And we spent far beyond what we were earning and all that stuff.
I can tell you, I'm very glad I'm living in Newry and not living in the south of Ireland at the moment, because people are suffering.
Well, the big difference is, and despite the comment we talked about Northern Ireland doing worse than the rest of the UK and the regions, the big point is that as a business who has clients on both sides of the border, there are very few people who didn't suffer a 20 to 25% reduction in income in the south of Ireland. Their wages were cut, the universal service charge went up, insurance levies gone up. In the north, because actually we're 2/3 dependent on the public sector, it's important again, whilst in real terms people's incomes may have fallen, there were no cuts in the public sector in terms of salaries. Actually,
we'd be the same as them if we didn't have that public sector investment.
Well, we could significantly, yes. And secondly, which is even perhaps more significant, actually the numbers in the public sector have grown. Employment numbers over the last 4 years, 5 years, rather than fallen.
See, they don't have that crutch.
No, because they weren't part of the British Empire. That has advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantage it has on a period of crisis, you don't have Big Daddy coming in to give you all the money for nothing. However, in a period of growth and opportunity in the world economy, you're forced to think creatively, you're forced to export, and their level of export is phenomenal. And that probably comes about to, and I wouldn't want to knock this, because I think there's a lot of good things happening in Northern Ireland, so don't misinterpret this. And I think there's a lot of good things consistent north and south. But if you think about how that happens, FDI, foreign direct investment, has always come into the south, perhaps because of the tax rate or whatever, significantly higher than the north per capita. Again, with the qualification, Northern Ireland is currently invested in outperforming the average UK performance. So acknowledge that, and it's doing very well. But in the south, because that 10%, they got a phenomenal amount of FDI, foreign direct investment. Even if those companies leave after 5 or 10 years, the technology transfer they leave behind them, the access that people from Donegal or Louth or Monaghan have actually been travelling the world and meeting customers all around the world, that level of access creates the opportunity and the culture to keep selling abroad. Now, we have our own success stories, the Norbrooks and the First Drivers. So one's not knocking, don't get me wrong.
No.
What we're really saying here is in terms of volume, there happen to be more there.
What's going on in Newry city centre, for goodness sake? The Democrat today, a huge double-page spread, Jack Murphy bemoaning the parking difficulties in the centre of town, the shuttering on the buildings and all the rest of it. Is the centre of Newry now dead? The Democrat it looks absolutely frightening and awful.
I think there's two issues there. Number one, we have to accept that the sector that's still finding it difficult.
So you have it there.
The sector that's still finding it most difficult is retail. Number two, we have to ask, did the people in that area, or did council over the last 20 years invest the same level as people in other areas of the town? I would suggest to you the answer is no.
I think that's demonstrable.
And I think you could do that in many ways. If you look at whether it be Christmas lights 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Now, I'm a great admirer of Jack Murphy.
Great people.
And Jack Murphy is the exception to this. Jack Murphy puts a level of investment.
And Declan's down there.
They put a level of investment into the community, into that area. So this is not a thing against Jack, but I'm taking the broader picture. Have those people invested? Have we turned that really into, if you look at the businesses, is it more office area? Is that a good idea? I think the mix is right. But this is an issue for planners, but also is an issue we have to ask the honest question. Why are people not investing in that area? Is there a dynamism in that area? Is that area the live area at night time? I mean, these are the questions that I'm not in a position to answer. I can ask the questions. But what I can say is that, from observation, it all comes about from environment, infrastructure, and investment. If you create the right infrastructure, people will invest.
Will invest. I stood on Hill Street yesterday, and a businessman, he's been there for 20 years, and he said it's dead. He said the business isn't here, and I'm just wondering how it can be taken forward.
But it's back to leadership, and it's back to the cluster effect. But I put it to you, Rowan, without mentioning names. I see you in coffee shops. I see you in retail shops. How often, and maybe parking is an issue, but again, I've got to say that, if you park your car even in a car park in some of our big shopping centres or near our shopping centres, you have to walk a fair distance. So it's not the walking to the shop psychologically. I think the issue basically is what is on offer.
Yeah.
And people like a cluster effect. They're not going in quite often for one shop or two. Jewellery's different because if you take Jack's shop, he has a tremendous reputation.
You can seek him out. And
he has he's a destination shop.
Yeah.
He's a brand.
Yeah.
So people could actually even drive to Newry and would go on the internet.
And McChesney would be the same. They like those shoes and all the rest and bags.
That's destination buying. Do you get me? That's slightly different to the guy who's just walking up the street, the impulse shopper. Now, I think that, if you look at Merchants Quay, Merchants Quay 15 years ago, 20 years ago was dead.
It was, absolutely.
Whoever thought a canal court could come and do what it did? But you had entrepreneurs. You had people who put their money where their mouth was. You had people who were encouraged. And these people have created an environment. Unfortunately, there is no good lamenting from the top of the steeple.
No.
I think what we have to do is find out, number one, why people aren't investing. And then number two, it is a responsibility on local government. Because we don't want to lose our city centres. It's a responsibility on local government then to put in place the infrastructure to encourage. But I mean, if you take even our council, whenever they had the opportunity to go to John Mitchell Place, 10 years ago they ran away from it. They're outside the town. We don't have I have to say, and I acknowledge the council have done very good work over the years. I was down in Newton Abbey Council, the old mill, Wolseley Mill, doing a talk last Wednesday night. I couldn't believe the job they did. I mean, you look at Lisburn City Centre, the council offices. We had opportunities here, and you can't change the past, but I hope going forward we realise that we strategically put government spending in the right places in government offices. A council should be vibrant. It should be at the centre of the area. It shouldn't be on periphery of towns. That's a key example of where we should be investing.
We're maybe now at the very cusp of a new city centre initiative, which is going to in some way physically link the shopping centre of the Quays and the Butter Crane. Maybe it's a bridge system, maybe it's some sort of through walk that leads folk physically into the market, into Hill Street, that whole shopping area. Maybe even I remember seeing the shopping mall in Leeds, where the Victoria Market there, covered over and beautiful and people happy. But it just seems that little bit, at this moment, standing ready for some kind of new investment.
I wouldn't be too negative. What I'd say is I think we have to creative and imagine. And I think, to be fair, they've done any of the ideas of the shopping things. I think
Hello,
the fashion
Newry
week,
sort of job and all of that.
I think we need to encourage. I think a lot of these initiatives are very, very good. So my suggestion would be, it's the small things. Whether you put the buskers in the street, but people will go where they think they're getting value.
Yeah.
People will go where they see flair. People will go where they see creativity. And the reality is, we've got to ask ourselves, are we doing that? If we're doing that and people aren't coming, then
we have
that's a different issue. But I think the broader issue here is we have a lot going for it. Newry Town Centre, Newry City Centre has a lot going for it. I think that we have to acknowledge that retail is going through difficult times. We cannot change world or global trends. And I think we have to look at the area and see, business people have to be encouraged back, and it will come, but it'll only come whenever the environment is right. And the one thing certainly the council can do, etc., and I think they've been trying, but it's how they enhance the environment and the business opportunity there. Now, the parking is a big issue. Personally, and this won't go down popular with the retailers, I don't have an issue paying for parking.
No.
But I think there should be available parking. To me, that's the far more important thing. I'm in Belfast regularly. I haven't yet got free parking.
No, you don't get free parking.
But I mean, to be honest with you, you see situations at present, which you have to say, you see prominent, business people or retailers in the, take for example, in the Hill Street area, and they're parking their cars miles away in order to save paying an annual fee for parking. I mean, is this the spirit we want? Are we not trying to create the investment in good parking facilities, but they're paid for themselves, people then pay for it? Personally, I'm all for that, as opposed to free parking all around the place.
You see, I have to admit, I'm horribly depressed this morning at that double-page spread with Jack Murphy there, crying almost to the sky. Jack Murphy has warned that not enough is being done to entice shoppers into Newry. He said, this is a message of death. Look at the shutters are down, the shutters are down, the shutters are down. I do hope you're right that something is going to move.
Well, let's take it the opposite way. Vacant properties create opportunities.
Yes, indeed.
I would rather take it the opposite. I would rather say an opportunity for new people to come into Newry.
Now you got it.
I think we have always got to go for it. But I want to stress here, I think, to be honest to Jack Murphy, he is a shining example of what business people can do and should do, not only for their own business but for their community. So this is not knocking Jack.
No, not at all.
But I do think that rather than blame other people, it has to come from within.
No,
maybe we need to look along the entire street, and everybody along there needs to ask themselves, can we do more? Have we done enough? Have we invested significantly? For example, even take the Christmas lights. What did we do? How much do we invest? Have we done any special initiatives?
No, like you, I have the greatest admiration for Jack Murphy and
Jack
the people of Hill Street. They're great people. But horribly at the moment, their back seems to be to the wall, and that needs to change.
But all our backs are to the wall, and I think the issue there is that, and Jack is a key example of this. Jack has been doing online work for years. We have to move with the trends, and I think, to be honest with you, if you have a good business, people will come to it. And that has been proved time and time again. Like, for example, why do people drive? There are places people drive to nearly a one-shop towns.
Indeed.
But people go and drive to the shop, and more importantly, if you drive that distance, I'm sure as Jack will tell you, when the person arrives, having been on the phone to him or on the internet to him, from Galway or from Mullingar.
It's what you said a moment ago, destination shopping.
By the time they leave, they'll buy, because, they made a mistake in their own judgment. If they drive 3 hours, take a day off work to go and buy the ring.
But if you go, I mean, it is sought out from all over the island. They come.
That's through good branding. That's through good service. That's
Branding,
through good
service,
product.
yeah,
It's
product,
back to the
all
key
of that.
things of business.
Yeah.
Dare to be different.
Dare to be different.
You know, to be fair, young Gemma going in there has made a phenomenal difference.
Yeah.
And the issue basically is, and we all make the mistakes every day of the week, but the issue has to be, why should somebody buy off me? Why should they buy now? And it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, the one thing we need to be careful here about, if you take, for example, the shopping centres, which are having a difficult time, but are doing reasonably well, they're not getting major government investment.
No.
They're doing it from within. They're doing it because people are investing and showing that by investing you make money.
That's it. Yeah, that's the mantra for success, really, at the end of the
and
day.
we all know, and we're all man enough to admit, we make mistakes and sometimes it causes failure. But there's no doubt about it. If you don't invest, you don't make money.
Don't make money. A man who didn't make money, who thought he put his toe into the pot of Anglo-Irish Bank shares, but ended up, he told the court yesterday, of putting his toe in, his heel in, his foot in, his whole body in, ending up with 30% of Anglo-Irish in his ownership. And now he's lived to regret the tale. Sean Quinn.
Well, again, I mean, not an expert in the Sean Quinn case, but if you stand back and look at it, if you're looking for a self-made entrepreneur, a phenomenal achievement, it was Sean Quinn. You can never take that away from Sean Quinn. There's some people, you give them billions, they couldn't achieve what he achieved. However, unfortunately, and this is the point he's making, and it could happen to any of us, but actually, he made one wrong mistake and he kept going after it. And you know, I remember actually, funny enough, in Sean Quinn's hotel, Paddy Hardy and I got up one morning at 5 o'clock to be there for 7:30 a.m. to see Russell presentation by a guy called, at the time, Howard Kilroy. I'll never forget it, because it was a time that helicopters weren't really, and as we were having our breakfast, this is I think 20 years ago. The helicopter dropped in and he got out, and I never forget it. This guy Gilroy, he was a former head of Smurfit and all this, former chairman of the quarterback of Ireland. But anyway, he walked in, I'll never forget, he took his jacket off and he hung his jacket on the mic stand and he spoke for 45 minutes. But one of the key things was, and I have to tell you, it had such an impact on me. I was a partner in a small business, side business. I ceased it that night. One of the key things he said was, he was involved in 25 companies. And he said, no, I learned more from the 5 that failed. And somebody asked him, what was the biggest lesson you learned? And he said, is to give it everything. But after a while, if it's still not working, to know when to get out of it and move on to another investment. And to be honest with you, hindsight's a great thing.
Oh, it is. Are you in Probus? No, you're not. The organisation, the former Rotarians. I'm with them in Warren Point today in the golf club.
No, I'm not.
I'm telling them they want me to come for some reason and tell them the story of my life.
I gave a talk to them. I was asked by the late Ted Bradley. This is the Teachers and Professional Organisation.
No, it's the Rotarians.
No,
former Rotarians. They've gone out to grass now and they're finished all of that.
Well, there used to be an organisation used to run a thing in Warren Point Golf Club.
I think it could well be the same people.
Basically, they invited people along every month.
That's right. Yeah.
But all these things are good. Networking, it's all about people, meeting people.
Yeah, that's your mantra, always people, the importance of people.
People.
Primacy of people forever is the kind of thing.
Business is all about people.
Leave us on a great note of optimism, please, would you? Because I'm depressed this morning with that I've been telling you, but cheer me up.
No, but I think we shouldn't be depressed, but equally we can't run away from the facts. I think Jack Murphy has highlighted key issues here. And I think there are issues that we must, we are where we are now, so we've got to start again. But there are many good bases upon which to start. And I think that with people like Jack Murphy and with his experience and wisdom, much can happen. But is Newry well placed? Newry's ideally placed to exploit the island economy. It's ideally placed on the northeast corridor. And I think the key lesson for us is, and I think if I have a slight disappointment, not a negativity, but a disappointment is, that I think we still haven't exploited our location to its best advantage. We have a habit here of spending money everywhere.
Yeah.
And you've heard me say this before. I would rather we put it into 1 or 2 projects that are of regional and national strategic significance than actually spending it in every corner, every community hall, every local GA club, every local soccer club, I think actually that is a strategic error we've made. I think we should have, even our swimming pool, I think, is potentially a strategic error. I think we shouldn't be building stuff just for the local community. I think we should build 1 or 2 strategic investments which attract people far beyond the area. Now, I think out of curiosity, an interesting point, Park Esther last weekend and this weekend is hosting the All-Ireland Club semi-final games. Now, that's attracting, this weekend's match will probably attract, I'm sure, 10, 15,000. Last weekend's 5,000. I think Park Esther is a facility we have not fully utilised. Now, the GA have utilised it, but the community has not utilised it to the extent it should. I believe it's a fine stadium. It's a fine sitting area. Even behind the stadium, underneath it, it's easy to get to. The one thing people forget about, Newry has a lot going for it. Our train systems now are excellent.
It's wonderful.
Our bus systems are excellent. Our road systems are excellent. So the one thing you need is people. We can provide the access for people to come here very quickly. So I think the challenge continues to be how we make sure that our product or our service is considered of value that people want to come to use.
Okay, Newry forever, upwards and onwards.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. Music, maestro, please.